Thank you for tuning into the show, everybody. I have with me Tanner Okey. He's from Canada, Alberta, and he's here in Hawaii working on his house, or his family's house out in the North Shore. But he's also a hockey player. So we get into this whole conversation about hockey, what it's like to start playing hockey, growing up as a kid playing hockey and going through junior and midget and stuff like that on through college, which Tanner did. And then we get into the rules about hockey a little bit. Yeah, this episode is going to cover a lot of hockey. Sorry, but if you're really interested and you have an open mind and you want to learn a little bit about hockey, this is a great episode to have. And I'm going to just touch off at the end about living in Hawaii and what it's like to come into Hawaii from an outside culture and what kind of open mind you need to bring when you do move here. So anyways, thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned. Let's go.
And I love that about hockey, because it's like, there's kind of this like whole respect thing, and it's similar, I think, to how surfing is with respect, and if you hit a player dirty or something happens or it's a good player, someone out there, someone else is gonna go kind of stick up for you. And it's kind of like an unwritten rule where usually if it's a big hit and it's maybe one of your better players, you're gonna have to fight somebody and kind of pay the consequence. But if you fight them and you're okay, you sit in the box for 5 minutes and then you're playing again, and everyone's kind of over it.
Hey, welcome to Hawaii Real, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't yet, please go to the website, hawaiirealpodcast.com. And you can also go and check out these videos on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that big red subscribe button. It's going to help this channel so much, and I'll be endlessly appreciative. Anyways, today we have on Tanner Okey. He is a hockey player from Canada. Tanner, thank you so much for coming on the show. And it's a short introduction, but you're here because you're helping to build a house on the North Shore. And you haven't played hockey yet here. Well, you have. You did some drop-in over at Ice Palace?
Yeah, before COVID. Probably played about 10 games starting in January. And I think I was saying it earlier, I had no idea there was awesome hockey out here.
I like to say there's awesome hockey, but
Well, I mean, being from Canada, everyone plays hockey, right?
Right. So you got a great backstory with that.
Exactly.
Growing up playing hockey, and I think people in Hawaii don't really realize how in-depth the hockey is in Canada. From a childhood level on, and you were living with other families and moving from city to city as a child, right? You want to give us a bit about your background here growing up playing that kind of midget hockey.
Yeah. So I grew up playing hockey on the on the ponds, our frozen ponds. My friend had a house on a man-made lake, and we would play almost every day, even after practice and games. So I started playing when I was about 6, and you play in your own community, right? And there's different divisions for how good you are, and I would make my way up to the top division, and then as you get older, you get playing against better players, and eventually I started playing midget hockey, which is when you're 15 to 17, and I ended up playing midget AAA, which is the top level at the time. And then what you kind of do as a hockey player in Canada, you try and you want to be pro. I feel like it's like surfing out here. Everyone wants to be a pro and get sponsored, right? In Canada, same thing. You want to get scouted, and so there's 2 routes you can take to try and play pro hockey. And the first route is Major Junior, which is, I don't know if you've heard, it's the CHL, so the Canadian Hockey League. It's like the WHL. There's other leagues basically in the East Coast of Canada, but where I'm from, Western Canada, is WHL, Western Hockey League. And so that is considered like semi-pro, and it's players, 15, 16 to 21. And they're the best of the best. So if you've heard like Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid, all the best players, right, they played in the CHL. And usually they're phenomenal players that play there, and then they go on and play. And then there's another route you can take, and it's kind of the college route, and that's the one I took. And basically, it's for players that are, still good players, but you need a little more time to develop. And so to do that, you play another junior league, which is a CJHL, so Canadian Junior Hockey League. And this is still considered amateur. And so across Canada, you have different leagues, like the Alberta Junior Hockey League, which I played in. So it's just in Alberta. There's the BCHL, so British Columbia Hockey League. And throughout Canada, it's like that. And through all those players that play in these leagues, you hope to get seen by like a college scout, U.S. college. And for most people, U.S. college, just because it's, NCAA Div 1, it's, the programs are, they have a lot more money than Canadian programs. And
does the U.S. have similar programs? They do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But just not as many? Or does Canada have more? Like, why? Well, I guess the basic question I'm going to have to lead into this is, why is Canada so good at hockey when they have a much smaller population?
I think, it's kind of been debated over time, but I think it's just, all we do is, especially just hockey players, just play hockey. Like, for example, when I was growing up, when I was like 13, we'd play a hockey game and we'd be done at, 8 o'clock p.m. It's cold. But we have so many outdoor rinks. Like in each community, there's, 4 or 5 outdoor rinks that have ice on them, right? So we'd be done and we'd be in our wet gear. We'd, change, and we would drive right to the, outdoor rink, have our parents drop us off, we'll walk home after and just play hockey until, lights go out at like 11:30 or whatever.
Wow.
And, it's just, you just keep playing and playing. And honestly though, the U.S. has an awesome hockey program. It's really building. But I think it's just the amount of time that we play hockey is and it's accessible, right? We just walk outside, and somewhere in your community there's going to be a little rink or a little pond. You can just strap on the skates and go out and play. So there's competition too. Like everyone's good, so you can just get better and better, right?
So it's like the same thing as why Californians and Hawaiians are good at surfing.
Exactly.
Because it's accessible.
Yeah.
And we do it all the time. You just go to the beach and surf.
Yeah, all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you do it often enough, doesn't matter kind of where you are, you're just going to get good if you just keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because I look at like the Olympics where you have small countries like Sweden and Finland that are really good, and they have like I didn't know they had a population of like 3 million people.
Yeah.
Like that's not even a city. Like what the hell?
Yeah.
How are you having world championship hockey teams come out of there?
Yeah.
And they must be doing something right.
A lot of training.
And just like picking and choosing the right players.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what brought you to Hawaii after going through all this hockey career?
Mm-hmm. So I work for a home building company called J. Martin Builders, and they're based out of Kalispell, Montana. And we're building a custom home up on Lani's Beach in Haleiwa. And so I work for the contractor out here. So he flies back and forth, every other week to visit his sites in Montana. And so I'm kind of the, site super project manager when he's not around. And so basically when I was in college, I played for Colorado College, NCAA, and I graduated at the end of 2019. And January of that year.
You graduated college in 2019. I feel old.
Yeah. Well, I guess it was a year and a half ago. But anyway, so I graduated, but during that year, personally, I wasn't having a great year, and it was kind of the year where you get scouted to try and play minor hockey and pro, and I knew I wasn't good enough to play in the NHL. There's some really good hockey players, and I knew that going forward, but I'd like to play minor hockey for a couple of years, but kind of the opportunity wasn't there. I didn't have a great year, so I was like, well, it's time to move on. I played hockey my whole life, so it's like there's other things in life to do. And so basically I got in contact with Jason is his name, and I grew up my dad was in construction, so I grew up hearing all the tales over the dinner table when I was younger, talking to my older brother and sister. And so I've been around it, surrounded by it. And so it's something that I am interested in in home building. And so I talked to Jason, and we ended up moving forward, and I moved out here in the end of August 2019 and started building this house in start of September. And I've been out here ever since, and I love it. It's Hawaii, right? You can't not love it. And now that they have hockey here, it's perfect.
Yeah, the rinks are finally starting to open up. Yeah. I'm so stoked for that. I'm trying to drag him in. Hey, you got to try roller hockey. He's like, I've never played roller hockey. It's the same thing. Put on wheels.
Exactly.
Same thing.
Yeah.
So, hockey is hockey, especially if you're in Hawaii. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, good to have you in Hawaii. You can make a really good addition to our local leagues here, and hopefully you get to stay, because we're talking like your visa. You have a visa situation here. Might have to go back to Canada. That sucks.
We'll see.
We'll see
what happens.
So, growing up playing hockey, but then not moving on in professional hockey, do you think growing up you had that preparation, or would you have liked something different to prepare you to not pursue an athletic career beyond college and stuff like that?
You know, I think growing up, I always knew eventually I had to find a career. You know, even the best hockey players play till maybe they're, 40 if they're lucky, right? So I think the average pro hockey player, lifespan is like 5 years or something like that. So, like growing up, I liked to do different things too. Like I wasn't just a hockey player. I liked to mountain bike, like to ski and kind of do adventurous stuff like that. And so I knew that there was kind of life beyond hockey, but I guess I was just expecting to play maybe a couple of years of pro just to experience it. So it was a little bit of shock to basically my last game in college was in March, and then I never played, competitively again after that. And it was a little shock, every day I was used to, getting up early, working out for, 2 hours and then going to the rink and practicing for another 2 hours and, eating right and kind of making my body the, kind of, I don't want to say like specimen, but
my body's a temple.
Yeah, but treating it right. And so it's been a little different now. I get a lot more sweets now and ice cream, but I'm happy because you find that hockey, especially for Canadians, isn't everything. And being a Canadian,
what
it's
sacrilege.
Yeah, but I think there is more to
Right.
life than hockey, right?
Right.
And to be fulfilled, you got to do other things too besides just playing a sport your whole life. So.
Yeah. Did you hear Jaromir Jagr is still playing? There was just a news article out there. He's still playing professional hockey.
Crazy.
Dude, he was playing professional hockey when I was a kid.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Yeah.
I think he's
all
almost 50 or
he's all
something now.
gray in his beard
Yeah.
and everything, and he's still like really good.
Yeah.
It's like, he's just a monster. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's one in a generation kind of person. Yeah, for all those listeners who don't know, Jaromir Jagr is an NHL player from the 90s who is still today playing professional hockey in Europe. I don't know where.
I think he owns a team in like Czech or something like
Oh,
that.
he must.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's from the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, really, really good player. Still, like, who plays professional sports into their... He's got to be in his 50s.
Yeah. Well, he loves it, so.
Yeah, he loves it, and he's really good.
Yeah.
So that's cool. One of the things I love about hockey in general is that I get to play it still. Here I am, 42 years old, and it's a recreation. We still have competitive tournaments and stuff like that where we get to play other teams as a, quote unquote competitive thing, going for medals or whatever.
Mhm.
But I just love the fact that I'm still able to have that competitive sport, athletic type thing as I'm an older person.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest, old. Body's breaking down, but I'm still able to do it. And hockey is one of those sports that allows you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Football, not so much.
Oh, no.
Like football, once you get through college, if you're not moving on to the NFL, you maybe go play Canadian football, but that's kind of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It's impactful too, right?
Right. It's hard on the body.
Yeah. Yeah. My grandpa played hockey, and that's kind of my tie to hockey. And he was pretty good. And he told me, after I decided not to play, pro, and he was like, hey, I've probably enjoyed hockey more, the last 20 years I played with my friends, just playing adult league, and you're going to really enjoy it. And that helped me out too, so I'm excited for that. And, I get to do it in Hawaii, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's another thing. You get to play hockey in Hawaii. Like,
Yeah.
how many hockey players, get to say that?
Exactly.
It's like that's a real niche thing. There's a rink in Maui that is right on the beach. Have you seen that?
Oh, I have
It's an
not
outdoor.
seen
It's
that.
an outdoor rink, cement, but it's got the boards, got the fenced in, and everything.
that's
and
incredible.
It's right. It's at a beach park. Yeah,
That's awesome.
that's their one rink. It's beautiful, beautiful. We need something like that here. So we have a couple of rinks. We have one out in Hawaii that's outdoors, and one in Mililani that's outdoors, and then the Ice Palace, of course, which I haven't heard if they're opening up yet, but apparently they resurfaced the ice,
Yeah.
which they've needed to do for a very long time. And the Kiha Kapolei Inline Hockey Arena, they're opening up in March. So we're all stoked again.
Yeah.
Can't wait. So how long has it been since you played hockey? Just played.
Just played? Well, since COVID. So I think it was the middle of March. I think we stopped playing. Yeah.
So I have this thing, and a lot of players that I've talked to have the same kind of feeling where you get antsy if you don't play for a long time, and you turn into an a-hole sometimes, you know. And that's like having that sport is an outlet. Kind of like surfers and boogie boarders and mountain bikers, they have that outlet. They need to get outside and they need to do it. They need to get away from their corporate job or whatever, just to take, you know, a couple hours to get that outlet. If you don't get that, oh my God, you turn into a monster. Do you feel the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. And, you know, I'm fortunate because I do like to surf and mountain bike too. And just, you know, luckily I live up in by Log Cabins. And I usually, you know, I'm off my site around 4:30. So, you know, in the winter you have about, you know, an hour and a half left of sunlight. And then obviously some have a little more, but, you know, I like to mountain bike. So I would just rip home and get my biking stuff on and pedal up to Pukea and can ride through there for 45 minutes to an hour. And, you know, I get the sweat out, you get to burn the kind of stress, and all you think about is riding. And same thing with surfing. You know, I go out with some buddies after work and kind of stay till sundown. Get a little scary sometimes, but, you know, I'm still learning how to surf properly. I feel like I can, once I'm on the wave, I feel like I'm okay, but it's getting into the wave, which is the challenge. Is, you know, obviously it's the hardest part I feel. But yeah, and luckily I get to, as you said, antsy. I don't feel antsy. You know, I get to do things still other than playing hockey. And, you know, in hockey we were playing, you know, for lucky twice a week, is usually once a week, right? So you had to find other aspects of staying active. So.
All right. So you're surfing a lot. Do you think any of those surfer guys would play hockey?
I bet some have definitely strapped the skates on and tried for sure.
Yeah. Actually, do you know Chris Latronic? He's a surfer.
That name, actually.
So he's a hockey player, but he's a surfer. And now he's on one of the news channels. He's like the weather guy on one of the news channels.
Maybe that's where it's from. Yeah.
But he's always posting his Instagram stuff of him surfing, and he's got a great camera angle. I don't know how he gets that camera angle when he's surfing, but it's pretty cool stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Chris Latronic. If you run into him, he's a hockey guy. He's a hockey guy. Yeah, totally. 100%. He would have all his reggae colored stuff when he played. It was funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Not too many surfer hockey player mishmash, but they kind of go together. It's a lot of balance.
Yeah.
It's a lot of luck.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and especially in hockey, like every inch matters, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, either you're hitting the post and going out, or hitting the post and going in, right? Yeah. So same thing. I feel like with surfing is what I've learned is you need to be in the right spot. And yeah, definitely with the balance issue too, with skating, you know, playing hockey, if you can't skate or you're not comfortable on skates, you can't play.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it makes it, you know, so hard. And because it's a fast sport. I think the fastest skater, like, he goes like 30 miles an hour, something like that, like something crazy.
Yeah.
And you got to think really quick too. And then you got to handle the puck with your stick, and you got to skate. And so, you know, I think if you don't grow up playing, it takes a while to learn. And so maybe, you know, being a surfer and, you know, you're by the beach your whole life if you're surfing, right? There's usually not a lot of hockey. So I think there might not be many hockey surfer combo people out there, but
yeah, not too many. But yeah. I always like to discuss how hard hockey or playing hockey is. And, you know, I don't get a whole lot of Canadian hockey players on the show. So thank you for coming on. We're going to discuss this a little bit. People say, and I mean, this is a worldwide thing. People say, you know, soccer is hard to play. Basketball is hard to play. Football is hard to play. Baseball, you know, hitting a fastball with a bat is like the hardest thing in sports. I'm like, have you tried hockey? Have you tried hockey? Because in all those sports I just named, the base of the sport is you're still walking around. You're still walking. You're still on the ground. You're on your feet. You're on the grass, or you're on the court. You're still walking. In hockey, if you can't skate, you can't even start.
Yeah.
I don't care how good of an athlete you are. If you don't know how to skate, you can't even start the game. You can't even start learning until you learn this basic fundamental of skating. And it's not just regular skating like at, you know, Ice Palace going around in a circle with the music playing, you know. No, you got to really learn how to stop, change direction, and keep balance on, in the wildest of ways when people are trying to get you off balance, right?
Yeah, trying to hit you. Yeah, I think, kind of what I was saying before, you need to be comfortable on your skates. And that usually starts at a young age, right? When you start things younger, you learn a little quicker, and it kind of becomes natural. Getting on the ice, I'll never forget how to skate and how to stop, skate backwards, do a crossover, use my edges, right? And it's definitely difficult, especially, team sport, because there's a lot of technique that goes into it too, right? Just receiving a pass at full speed on your backhand, and not letting it bounce off, because the whole, one of the, I guess, ways you play the sport is you don't want to give the puck to the other team. Mm-hmm. And especially in areas where, we call it a turnover, if you turn the puck over, and there's areas on the ice where if you turn it over, it's probably going to end up in the back of your net. And it's pretty hard to score in hockey too, right? You got 5 guys trying to whack you with sticks and hit you into the boards, and then plus you got a goalie, you got to shoot it through. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, it's difficult. It's a high speed, right? You got to think really fast, and but I've never tried to hit a MLB pitch with a baseball. I'm terrible at baseball, so I can definitely see how those are challenging sports too. But I guess I'm lucky growing up playing. Right. I haven't had to think about skating. It just came natural. That's
right. Hands down, all those sports have difficult aspects to them. Hands down. I'm just saying, it's like, man, hockey is so hard to even get started in. Like basketball. Sure. Okay, what to start basketball? You can dribble a ball, you shoot the ball. That's the basics, right? Yeah, the very basics. Football, the basics: run the ball into the end zone, mm-hmm. avoid tackles. Mm-hmm. Like that's the basics. Baseball, mm-hmm. hit the ball as someone's throwing it to you. It's a hard thing to do. Granted, if you're successful in baseball 30% of the time, you're an all-star kind of thing. I think the top baseball players hit like a 400, and they're great. Yeah, that's 40% of the pitches that they're hitting, or at bats they're making contact and getting on base, which is great. Mm-hmm. I know it's hard. But man, hockey, if you can't even get up on skates and move around, man, you're not even starting the game. You can't even walk up to the plate,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I always like to say that hockey's hard. The other thing with hockey is, it like you were saying earlier, it's so quick and so fast. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons why in hockey you have the players get on the rink for like a minute, mm-hmm. and then get off, and they're resting.
So it's different than most sports, is that usually a shift is, 45 seconds to a minute, mm-hmm. but you're going as hard as you can for those 45 seconds or a minute, right? And, you have all this gear on, and skating is hard as it is, right? And then, so you're really pushing, and so you're, gassed after the 45 seconds. So you sit on the bench, and then you have, 3 other lines that go out. So you get about, a minute and a half, 2-minute rest. And you do that, you probably average, if we call them rolling the line, so you play every line after each other, mm-hmm. You probably get 5 or 6, because we do 3 20-minute periods, 5 or 6 shifts a game, or sorry, every period. And, with power plays and penalty kills and stuff like that, it varies. But, after the game, you're exhausted. And, it doesn't seem like a long time, like 5 shifts every period.
You're only playing 5 minutes? Are you saying you're only playing 5 minutes a period? That's all. It's like, dude,
it's a lot of work.
It's intense.
Yeah, it's because you're really pushing, mm-hmm. Your legs. You're in the squat position for the 45 seconds while pushing with your legs, stopping, like fighting off guys, and so yeah, definitely our cardio has to be up there. And like the way we train too is we do running too, but usually in practice we do some, you do sprints or whatever, you skate board to board as fast as you can for 45 45 seconds for like half hour, mm-hmm. and it sucks, you get bagged, but it's all worth it though when you're out there, because your adrenaline's pumping, right? You don't feel as fatigued. But definitely, on a power play, it's 2 minutes, right? If a player takes a penalty, it's a 5-on-4, right? It's usually 5-on-5. And so usually your best players are out there trying to score, and they usually stay out for a minute and a half. And, that's a hard minute and a half.
Well, you also have your best player, your best defensive players. If you're on the power play kill, you're a man short, and so you're trying to defend with a man short. So you got your best players out there for the 2 minutes getting exhausted too.
So that's what I did. I wasn't always the best offensive player. I was a pretty good defensive player. So I would, win faceoffs and clear the puck on penalty kills and block shots and stuff like that. And it's equally as hard because there's only 4 of you out there, right? And against 5, and basically you're in the squat position trying to deflect the shot or intercept a pass, right? And lunging and stuff like that. So it definitely is hard work. And yeah, I mean, you get tired, and sometimes you get hemmed in there for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And I remember one my freshman year in Colorado, and we were playing North Dakota, and they were an all-star team. I think like half their team plays in the NHL right now. They had this line called the CBS line. It was Kajula, Besser, and Schmaltz, and they all play in the NHL, like making like $6 million a year or whatever they're making. And they were, stellar. And then it was my line. There was 3 freshmen, and we were in the zone. I'm not kidding, for 3 minutes, because in hockey, if you shoot the puck down all the other end, it's icing, right?
And
you can't change. And so we would ice it. So they went through a full rotation of lines and won. So we were out there for like 3 minutes, and they didn't score, luckily, but they were just like circling around us. And I don't think I've ever been more tired in my life. I think I almost threw up on the bench. It's terrible.
Coach, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. So anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's part of the strategy too with line changes in teams in hockey, is to prevent the other team from having a clean line change or even having a line change, because then their players are on the rink getting tired, and you can get fresh guys on your team. Yeah.
There's a lot of strategy in hockey. Some people might think it's just kind of run and gun, but in reality, there's a lot of systems that go into it, especially even just the one aspect is matching lines. And so, for example, if the team's, we'd say worst or fourth line, worst players out there, if they're matched up against the best players on the other team, they're probably going to get scored on. And so, as a home team, you get the last change, so they can put their guys out, and then you can decide who you want to go out. So that's kind of an advantage of being a home team. But sometimes when you get hemmed in there, they would send their top guys out, and they have the opportunity to score. And anyway, so there's a lot that goes into hockey, and just a lot more than kind of what the eye sees, but it's a great sport, and I'm super fortunate to be able to play it.
So for someone that's not used to hockey, what advice would you give to them to get into watching the sport or becoming a fan of the sport?
First, I would say watch it with someone who knows hockey, because it's like, again, it's so fast. Like even on TV, like you can, I've watched it my whole life, so I know what play is going to happen at what scenario, and I know how to watch the puck. But if you first start, you can barely watch the puck. You don't know where it's going,
right?
Especially on the TV, you're like, wow, that zipped so fast. So I would definitely watch it with somebody, and I would see a game live if you can. Let's try and see a game live. It's a lot easier to follow live. But basically, if someone you watch, knows hockey, and you want to, they'll explain to you what's going on and the rules and all the lines on the ice and stuff like that. But if you don't have the opportunity, I think just kind of stick with it. If you're interested, kind of stick with it. Eventually you'll understand. And obviously YouTube and Google can kind of explain some things too.
Yeah. For me, it's like at the end of the day, just watch the puck go in the net. If the puck goes in the net, your team scores, yay. Like, don't worry why they're stopping or anything like that. There's rules in hockey. Most of the rules are for safety, but otherwise it's just like offsides and icing and not too many. It's like get the puck in the net using your stick, and there's rules about that too. But like football has a crazy amount of rules, a crazy amount of structure. It's insane to think about how many rules there are in football. There's so many rules, like most of the refs don't know all the rules either. That's why they have so many refs, and they get together and they talk. Yeah, hockey's not it's one of those where there's not too many.
Not too many.
Yeah.
None that make a huge difference in the game.
Right.
And I think the one that could be confusing is offsides or penalties too, right? But eventually you kind of understand why that would be a penalty. Basically, if every penalty you take is usually for safety reasons. So if you hit a guy in the head, it's a penalty. You can't do that. Or it's like a tripping. You're preventing the guy from scoring and having a fair chance to score. But there's other things like fighting isn't really. You get a 5-minute misconduct and you sit in the box for 5 minutes and it's okay. And I love that about hockey, because it's like, you know, there's kind of this like whole respect thing, and similar, I think, to, you know, how surfing is with respect. And you know, if you hit a player dirty or something happens, or it's a good player, you know, someone else is going to go kind of stick up for you. And it's kind of like an unwritten rule where usually if it's a big hit and it's maybe one of your better players, you're going to have to fight somebody and kind of pay the consequence. But I mean, if you fight them and you're okay, you sit in the box for 5 minutes and then you're playing again, and everyone's kind of over it. And so I like that about it. And you can kind of settle scores, you know, in a safer way. I mean, I say fighting, but in reality, hockey fighting is, I don't want to use the word safer, but it's not the same as like if you're going to fight somebody on, you know, solid ground. You're on skates, and you don't have the leverage you do. And the most dangerous part about fighting actually is hitting your head on the ice when you fall. It's not getting punched. Like I've been in a fair bit of fights, like in junior hockey, and I mean, we're younger, we're 18-year-old, you know, we're not that strong, we're not these big guys, but you know, I would, you know, the adrenaline's going, you get a fist to the face, you don't really feel it. And then you feel it when you're in the box, but the most dangerous part is like having a guy fall on you with his elbow and your head hit the ice. That's the most dangerous part, right? So,
yeah, I do like that about hockey, and we could whole discussion on fighting in hockey, because a lot of fans and even people that don't know hockey, they watch it for the fights. They're like, "Oh, hockey it's such a brutal sport. They fight." It's like, in my mind, I'm like, well, there's reasons why they fight, and it's kind of structured as to leading up to a fight. It's usually not something that just breaks out, you know, at random, especially at the NHL level. They're usually calling each other out, and they're setting up, you know, the people to get on the ice that are the fighters and stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, it's usually for a reason. And in other sports, you have like a lot of rules to prevent something to get to a fight. Like I'm just thinking, like in the NFL, you're not allowed to hit the quarterback. If the quarterback runs, he can slide. Once he throws the ball, you know, there's like, you can't touch him kind of thing. Yeah. There's a lot of protections in the rules in place for the quarterback. In hockey, don't really have that for your star players, your goal scorers, who are usually the more, not necessarily smaller, but sometimes they are smaller, but they're faster, quicker. So you don't have those rules in place to protect those players. So what you need is enforcers to protect those smaller players from getting beat up and smashed into the boards. And you can't be fast enough as a player to avoid getting hit all the time. Like there's going to be scenarios and situations where, dude, you're going to take a hit and you're going to get roughed up. Yeah. So you need those enforcers to prevent, I guess, more or too much of that roughing up from occurring on your star players. Well,
I mean, you just have to know if you're going to go after a star player that someone's going to get you. Yeah. And so it makes you think twice about it. You're like, oh, do I really want to do this?
Right.
It's funny because the game of hockey is changing a lot, and like even when I was kind of grown up player, it was a little rougher, and you know, you had to be bigger and strong, right? So you could protect yourself. Now it's more about speed and skill, just because rules are changing. You know, you can't have, you know, so I got a penalty once for hitting someone too hard in college. You know, even 5 years before that wouldn't be a penalty. And especially in like the 80s and 90s, like playing hockey, like obviously I wasn't around, but you know, I've seen all the games. They have full on brawls. They have guys that were there just to fight and just to protect, and they didn't really even play. They would just sit on the bench, and if something happened, they would go out there next shift and take care of it.
Yeah, goons.
Yeah, and so they kind of they're getting away from that. Mostly it is for protection, because a lot of those enforcers have, you know, similar in football and stuff like that. They have concussion issues and you know, have a lot of issues after, you know, their sport's over. And so they're trying to get away from that and kind of get back to more skill and speed but I mean, every now and then a lot of the fights break out because of just, you know, you're being super competitive and someone kind of hits you the wrong way and you want to get them.
So I love that aspect about hockey, where fights happen, and they're structured. It's for a reason. And off camera, we were just talking about lacrosse and how lacrosse kind of has fights too. Those are more dangerous because you're actually on foot. and fighting. Like hockey, at least you're on skates, so you're not getting the full leverage of a punch and stuff like that. But some of those guys still punch super hard.
Oh yeah.
I've seen them break helmets, like hit another guy in the helmet, and like the helmet just like shatters.
The visor comes off.
Yeah, they're like, dude.
Yeah.
Man. But it's all for a reason. I like how in hockey you get a penalty and you're in the box for 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. Then you back out and you can play. So you're not out of the game necessarily. But in sports like soccer, like they're trying to get you a penalty. So you get a yellow card and then a red card, and then you're out of the game. Right? If you get a red card.
Yeah.
And your team has to play short, right?
Yeah, they do.
Like that's insane. That promotes flopping around and crying and acting like your leg is broken when nothing really happened.
Yeah.
I hate that about soccer.
Yeah. It's part of the game, I think. Yeah. I played soccer a little bit when I was younger, and we were never like taught to dive, but it was just kind of like another unwritten rule where it's kind of part of the game. And I think everyone knows that it's a dive, but for some reason it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of how the rules are. So
Yeah.
that they get a yellow card and then a red card and they're out.
Yeah.
You know, so they're really trying to embellish it so that it's a red card.
Yeah.
Instead of just a yellow card. It's like, no, dude, if you're rolling around like your ankle's on fire and broken, they should bring out a stretcher and cart you off.
Yeah.
And you're done.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like that part about soccer. I think soccer would be a better game if they didn't have those type of rules where it's a yellow card, red card. You know, have something else. Something in place for safety, but I don't know, man. I can't watch those guys flop. In case in point, we had a hockey tournament up here one time, and a team from South America came up.
Okay.
And, you know, in their country, they play a lot of soccer, and they started up roller hockey also. They were doing the same flopping around on the hockey rink and embellishing, like for getting tripped. Like a guy got tripped, and he went down. It was a legit trip. The referee saw it, put his hand up, said the guy, you know, to the box for 2 minutes for tripping. But the South American player was still on the ground flopping around like he was dying.
Yeah.
Holding his ankle. I'm like, dude, ref. And I'm watching the game. I'm not even playing the game. I'm yelling at the ref, dude, that's a delay of game. Like he ain't injured.
Yeah.
He's got to get up because the clock's still running. And they're ahead by 1 goal. He can't be doing that. Like that's a delay of game. And I no. All right, man. But it was shocking to see this team do that kind of stuff in a hockey sense, and everybody was just booing them for doing that. It's like, dude, that's not hockey.
Yeah,
it's not hockey.
Yeah. You get penalties for embellishment in hockey. You know, I think it falls under like, I don't know what it falls under, embellishment, I would say. But sometimes it's like a misconduct if you do it too much. And I mean, I understand that, like, and it's not, I don't think you have a lot of hockey players that once they go down, they, you know, roll around, like their ankle's broken. But you definitely, you know, if for example, you run into a guy by accident, you don't have the puck and you fall down a little easier than you should, you can get a penalty for that.
Sure.
And
there's a little Hollywood in it. Yeah,
there is.
Of course.
And it's good that they call penalties, or else, you know, they would do that more often, I would say.
Yep.
So anyway.
But even trips, I mean, I've seen guys, you know, their skate gets touched by a stick and they go down.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, bud, you can't skate, man.
Yeah.
You just can't skate. But I mean, I understand that. That's, yeah, you can take a dive. I get that. But don't be rolling around on the rink like you're dead.
Yeah.
Or your leg is broken and then get back up, skate to the bench, rest for a minute, and then get back on the rink like nothing happened.
Yeah, you lose a lot of respect for that.
Oh, zero. Yeah, zero respect after that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, dude, you can't be. He got a penalty. He went to the box for 2 minutes. You're not going to get any more.
Exactly.
Like, it just doesn't happen in hockey. You're not going to get a red card. You're not going to go out.
I don't think in the history of sports I've ever, like, seen a ref change his mind after he makes a call. Like, any sport, I don't think, like, oh, he rolled around for 5 minutes? Okay, it's worse now, and then I'll give him a bigger penalty. You know?
Right.
So,
would I say that happened in the playoffs between the Las Vegas Golden Knights and San Jose Sharks a couple of years ago? It was a face-off, and right after the face-off, the two face-off guys, you know, the San Jose guy won the face-off, and the Knights guy kind of shoved him.
Okay.
And once he shoved him, the unfortunate thing that happened is that the San Jose Sharks guy kind of fell backwards and ran into another Golden Knights guy, player.
Oh, I remember this.
And he fell on his head.
I remember this. Yeah.
So San Jose Sharks guy. And it wasn't anything dangerous initially. It was just a shove.
It was unfortunate, yeah.
Right. But the guy, his legs went up in the air and his head went down on the ice, cracked his skull, blood all over the ice. It was totally unfortunate. It should not have happened. But they gave the guy a 5-minute they gave the Golden Knights player a 5-minute misconduct for that. I was like, dude, it wasn't his fault. That wasn't his intention. Like, he didn't try to do that. It's just he lost the face-off, shoved the guy a little bit.
Yeah, so I think if I remember that correctly, I think they called it a penalty already, and I don't think they reversed it. And I think that's part of the game. And they are getting into that now with like offside reviews and stuff like that, where if there's a goal and it should have been an offside, they can review it. Even 5 years ago, they didn't have that. And I think they're getting into that now more with penalties. Especially there's a penalty where if you flick the puck over the glass in your own end, it's a penalty. And that can be a big game changer. And it has been. Totally. Guys take a penalty and then they score and then, eventually lose the game. So I think they might be getting into reviewing that too as a possibility. But yeah, I mean, scenarios like that, I think just unfortunate. And I mean, luckily the guy's okay, but
yeah. It was really freaky to see him like lying on the ice with his head bleeding. I was like, oh my God. Then it's like, well, how did that happen? He landed on his helmet. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Like watching in slow motion so many times, like he lands on his helmet.
Yeah.
And still like breaks his head. So he needs a new helmet and like he needs better helmets.
The helmets in hockey,
they haven't really changed since I was a kid.
They're getting a little bit better, but yeah, I mean, they basically have like a 1/2-inch foam, you buy at Home Depot in there basically, and then a little plastic shell.
Yep.
And yeah, ice is hard, man.
Can you imagine they used to play without helmets?
Oh man,
that's ridiculous.
Those guys are crazy. Even goalies used to play without helmets.
That's ridiculous. Yeah. I don't get that. It's like you play with all these pads on with no mask or a helmet or anything. It's like, are you stupid? Yeah. No, you're just supposed to stand up. That's still stupid. It's like
getting a puck to the face. I got a puck to the face one time. It was actually my friend who shot it, he was my roommate, one of my best buddies. He was my roommate in junior hockey. And he shot it and deflected. It hit me right in the side of the cheek here.
Jesus.
I lucked out. I didn't lose any teeth, which looking back on it, I kind of wish I lost a tooth or something. Being a hockey player, have a flipper tooth or something.
Yeah, have all your teeth.
Exactly. I lucked out. But I had this swollen face for about a week, and it looked like a growth on the side of my cheek. And then eventually the swollen face kind of went to the other side. So I couldn't see it on my left eye. It was my left side. And then it would make my way to my right side. And anyway, I looked like a demon or something like that. But that was a terrible one, getting the puck to the face.
Yeah, I'll never play hockey without a cage, a full face cage, man. No. Yeah. My face is too pretty, I guess. I don't know. I've just seen guys get a deflection, just random puck that they should not have come to their face, get deflected up and hit them in the eye or something like that. And all of a sudden they got to go to the hospital to get stitches.
Yeah.
It's like, dude. Yeah, never. No, not doing it. So, what else you got going on here in Hawaii? So you got the construction business going. You're learning that. Where's the future for you? Do you think you're going to stay here in Hawaii or move back, or what's your hope?
My hope is to get another visa, and the one I can get hopefully is 5 years. And I want to keep growing this business with Jay Martin out here, and I think we've developed a great relationship with a lot of trades, and kind of understand how building on the islands work. Plus, there's a great market for it too. A lot better than I thought when I first moved out here. And so being in Hawaii, I love being out here, all the things to do. Plus the opportunity is great. So I think for the next couple of years, if I get my visa, I'd like to stay out and keep building, keep kind of learning and kind of getting experience. I think eventually I wouldn't mind go back to Canada. I haven't been back in probably 6 years. I've been back for Christmas and stuff like that, but I haven't actually lived there for 6 years, going to school in Colorado and then coming out here. So I definitely miss it. I miss I miss the snow. A lot of people are like, "Oh, you got out." like, I actually like the snow. I don't like cold -35 Celsius days. Those are days I could miss, but I don't mind snow. And I think Hawaii is a special place because of the people here. It's a very diverse and culture. There's all different types of cultures and people, and then everyone kind of shares the same, aloha spirit that's been talked about, and you definitely feel that, and everyone's so friendly. And in Canada, we don't have that, aloha feel, but people are friendly there too. And, it's where I grew up, and a lot of my friends are there. And so I think eventually I'd like to go back there, and I think I do want to continue in home building. I do enjoy the process, and I don't know if I could spend every day in an office. I'm a very outdoorsy guy, and so I like being on site, and eventually I'd like to get more of the business side than, the site supervision side. But for now, I definitely enjoy, being in it. And so I think for my, future, my 5-year future, I would like to stay out here. But if I don't get a visa, I think I will end up having to move back to Canada and explore my options there.
Does Hawaii live up to your expectations?
Oh, it's better. Yeah. It's, as a kid, I always dreamed of having the long blonde hair, being a surfer dude. I was 13. It was my goal. I even listened to reggae in Canada for 2 months because I was oh, I wish. And then I was oh, maybe I'm not that guy. But I loved Hawaii, and in another life, I'm oh, I'd love to live out here. And then it came true. And I was expecting to, be in the water every day, and I have, and I've been fortunate to be able to do that. But it just I was a little nervous. I didn't know what working out here would be like. I know it's different, working than being on vacation, but I heard stories of if the swell's really good, guys don't show up to work and they go,
sure,
but that wasn't the case. We had an awesome group of subs, and they obviously surf, but they would surf from 6 to 8, show up at 8:30 and get their work done, stay till 4:30. And so that was my only, I guess, assumption of what was going to happen, guys not show up. And, but basically, everyone here has been so friendly. And everywhere you go, you just give a shaka, and I try not to be the haole that talks pigeon, right? I can't do that.
No, don't.
No, I will never be that guy. But it's really great to get to know other, because in Canada, in Calgary, you have actually a pretty big Filipino population, and then actually a really big East Indian population too, up in the north. But other than that, it's not, a lot of white people. And here, I've learned so much about different cultures, and just something that I haven't been able to experience before. And it definitely changes your perspective on life. And, it obviously made me kind of realize how lucky I had it too, especially being in Canada. And, so, I've experienced those things, and it's definitely been very enjoyable.
Any advice you would give to, mainlanders or Canadians moving here or wanting to move here? Whether it be the housing or the culture or anything.
Yeah, housing is expensive. I would just say come with an open mind. I think be willing to experience new things. Even the small thing, try new foods that you've never tried, and it's part of the United States, but it's so different, I think. And I've seen a lot of, being hockey, you see a lot of military guys, those are the main guys that are playing hockey out here. And, they have their way about them. And I think it's just try to, kind of dive into the culture and not be afraid to try new things, and kind of leave your, I wouldn't say leave your past behind, but you know what I mean? Explore yourself, I guess you would say. Explore.
It's just continuance of learning.
Exactly. Learn about it and have an open mind. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, Tanner, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
First podcast. You did good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's been awesome.
I got to talk hockey.
Yeah, exactly.
Rarely happens on this show. But it's been great. thank you so much for coming on, and best of luck to you with the house, and get to the rink.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Any last words?
No, that's all good. Thank you.
All right. All right. Tanner Okey, everybody. Remember, stay happy, Hawaii.